I never thought I'd be the kind of person to write something like this, but here I am. I don't even know if I'm looking for advice, validation, or just a place to let all of this out because it's eating me alive. To I, 26, F, found out recently that my parents left everything to my older brother in their will. And when I say everything, I mean literally everything. The house, the savings, the life insurance, even the small family heirlooms. Meanwhile, I was left with nothing, not a single thing. Let me back up a little. I grew up in what most people would consider a picture-perfect family. My mom was a teacher, my dad was an engineer, and my older brother Daniel, 29M, was always the golden child. It wasn't like they treated me horribly or anything, but it was very clear from early on that Daniel was their favorite. He was the straight-A student, the captain of the soccer team, the kid who never disappointed them. Meanwhile, I struggled. I wasn't dumb by any means, but I had ADHD and school was hard. I was creative, loved art and writing, but those things weren't exactly what my parents valued. Why can't you be more like your brother? I heard that phrase so many times it practically became the soundtrack of my childhood. But despite all that, I love my family. I always thought that deep down my parents loved us equally. They just had higher expectations for me. That's what I told myself. Fast forward to last year. Our dad passed away unexpectedly from a heart attack. It devastated all of us, but especially Mom. We tried to be there for her, and for a while, Daniel and I were closer than we had been in years. I thought maybe losing Dad would bring us together as a family. But then, last month, Mom passed away too. Cancer. She had been fighting it silently, not telling us how bad it really was. One week she was texting me about how she was feeling better, and the next week I got a call from the hospital saying she didn't make it. Losing both parents within a year broke something in me. I was still grieving, still trying to process everything, when Daniel called me and said we needed to meet with a lawyer about the estate. I assumed that everything would be split evenly. Isn't that what parents usually do? 50-50ths? Maybe a few sentimental items given to each of us specifically, but overall shared. When the lawyer read the will, I sat there frozen. Everything was left to Daniel. The house we grew up in. Dad's retirement savings, the car, the jewelry, the bank accounts. Even Mom's old piano that I was the one who actually played it was written specifically to go to Daniel. My name wasn't mentioned anywhere, not once. I thought it was a mistake. I even asked the lawyer, "Are you sure? Are you reading the right will?" But no, it was correct. Daniel just sat there awkwardly, not meeting my eyes. The lawyer wrapped up the meeting, and that was it. My parents were gone, and they left me nothing. I didn't even cry at first. I just felt numb, like I had been slapped so hard that my brain couldn't process it. I drove home in silence, gripping the steering wheel so tight my hands hurt. That night the dam broke. I sobbed harder than I ever have in my life. It wasn't about the money, or at least not just the money. It was about what it represented. My parents had made a choice. They looked at me, their daughter, and decided I wasn't worthy of a single thing. All those years I thought I was just overthinking, just being insecure about being the lesser child. Turns out I was right all along. They really didn't value me the same way. The next day I confronted Daniel. He was sitting in the kitchen of Mom's house, his house now, apparently drinking coffee like nothing had happened. I asked him if he knew. Daniel sighed and said, "Yeah, Mom told me a while ago." That hit me like a truck. He knew. He knew for months, maybe longer, and never said a word to me. "Why?" I demanded. "Why would they do this?" He shrugged. "I don't know. They just thought I'd be more responsible with it, I guess." Responsible. That word burned. Was I really that much of a disappointment that they didn't trust me with a dime? I asked him if he thought it was fair. He hesitated, then said, "Honestly, yeah, I worked harder. I stayed closer to them. I was always there when they needed something. You were always kind of doing your own thing." I felt like I couldn't breathe. He said it so casually, like he wasn't telling me my entire existence in the family was basically meaningless. We argued. I yelled that it wasn't fair, that I was their child too. He told me to grow up and accept it, that mom and dad's decision was final and he wasn't going to fight their wishes. That's when I realized Daniel wasn't going to give me a penny, not even out of kindness. He was going to take everything, just like they wanted. I left before I said something I couldn't take back. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I've been spiraling. I can't sleep. I can't eat properly. Every time I think about it, my chest feels heavy. It's like I'm grieving my parents all over again. But this time, I'm grieving the version of them I thought existed, the version that loved me the same as my brother. And the thing is, I don't know what to do. Legally, the will is solid. There's nothing I can contest. I already looked into it. So it's not about the money. It's about the betrayal. I keep replaying my childhood in my head, looking for signs. Did they ever really love me the same way? Or was I always just second best? Did they ever look at me and feel proud? Or was I just the spare kid while Daniel was the star? I tried talking to a close friend about it, but she didn't really get it. She said, "It's just money. Be glad your brother is stable. At least you don't have to deal with the stress of property and bills." But she doesn't understand. It's not about money. It's about what it symbolizes. It's proof that my parents never truly saw me the way I saw them. And now, here I am, alone. Daniel has moved into the house and acts like nothing is wrong. I haven't spoken to him since that day. He texted me once asking if I wanted to come over for dinner sometime. But the idea of sitting in that house, our childhood home that I'll never get to call mine again, makes me sick. I don't know if I'll ever forgive him or them. But here's the thing. I've started to think maybe I need to do something about it. Not legally, since that's a dead end, but something else. Because if they thought I was weak, irresponsible, and not worth leaving anything to, maybe it's time to prove them wrong. Or maybe it's time to stop playing the role of the forgotten child altogether. I sat in that lawyer's office for what felt like hours. My brother David had a smug grin on his face like he had already won the lottery. He didn't even look at me once, didn't ask how I felt, didn't care. It was like I didn't exist. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tear that piece of paper apart and demand answers. But I froze. My parents had signed it. Their signatures, their handwriting, it was all real. I walked out of the office without saying a word. David stayed behind, probably to ask about the money, the house, all the details. I couldn't stand it. I drove back to my apartment, my hands shaking the whole way. That night I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, wondering how I was supposed to keep living my life after finding out that I meant nothing to my parents. Not enough to even leave me a piece of the life they built. The next day, I confronted my mom. She was in the kitchen making tea like it was just another morning. "Mom," I said, my voice already breaking. "Why? Why is everything going to David? What did I do wrong?" She froze. For a second, I thought she might break down and tell me it was a mistake. But instead, she sighed. "It's not about wrong or right, honey. David needs it more. He's always struggled. You're strong. You'll be fine on your own." Those words cut deeper than anything I'd ever heard. So basically, because I worked hard, studied, and tried to make something of myself, I was being punished? I stared at her, waiting for her to take it back. She didn't. I left before I said something I'd regret. For weeks, I tried to push it aside. I focused on my job, my friends, anything to keep myself from spiraling. But every time I saw my parents, every holiday dinner, every casual Sunday visit, it was like there was a wall between us. David sat there smug, knowing he had already been handed everything. One night I caught him bragging to his girlfriend on the phone. "Yeah, when they pass, the house is mine. The money too. I won't ever have to work again." I felt sick. He wasn't planning on honoring our parents' memory. He was planning on cashing out. Then it got worse. I found out my parents had already transferred certain accounts to his name, retirement funds, investments, things they didn't tell me about. It wasn't even about the money at that point. It was about the betrayal. I decided I had two choices: accept it quietly or fight back. The first thing I did was talk to a lawyer of my own. He told me something I didn't expect. Wills can be contested, especially if there's evidence of undue influence or unfair treatment. But it's a long, messy road. It could destroy your family. My family was already destroyed. I started digging. I collected text messages, notes, conversations I remembered where my parents admitted they gave David more because he couldn't handle life on his own. I found receipts of them bailing him out of debt, paying his rent, covering his mistakes. The more I gathered, the more I realized this wasn't just favoritism. This was enabling. But then, guilt hit me. What if I was being selfish? What if my parents really believed I didn't need anything? Maybe they thought they were doing the right thing. One night I sat with my dad. I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Dad, why? Why him? Why not me?" He looked at me with tired eyes and said, "Because you'll survive without us. David won't. We can't watch him fail." It was like they had already given up on me emotionally. I was just fine. No matter what I achieved, no matter how hard I worked, I would never be their priority. That was the night I decided I couldn't let this break me. So I started planning my own life, my own version of inheritance. I saved harder. I cut back on unnecessary spending. I poured myself into work. I built connections. I told myself that everything I had would be mine because I earned it, not because someone handed it to me. And slowly it started working. I got promoted. I moved into a better apartment. I bought my own car, cash. Meanwhile, David, he blew through the money they had already given him. He quit his job. His girlfriend left him. He started calling me, asking for loans. The irony was almost funny. But the real turning point came last year. My mom called me late at night crying. "It's David," she said. "He's in trouble. He's asking for more money, but we don't have much left." For the first time in my life, I said no. "Mom, I can't. I've worked too hard to build what I have. If you keep giving, he'll never learn." She went quiet. I think deep down she knew I was right. Months later, my dad had a health scare. Suddenly, the will became a very real topic. And you know what happened? David showed his true colors. While my dad was in the hospital, David wasn't there. He didn't visit, didn't call, didn't care. He was too busy partying with the money they gave him. Meanwhile, I sat at my dad's bedside every day. I held his hand. I made sure my mom ate, slept, and took her meds. And slowly, I think my parents started to see the truth. One evening, after Dad was released, my mom pulled me aside. "We've been rethinking some things," she said quietly, "about the will." My heart skipped a beat. She explained that they realized David wasn't going to change, that maybe giving him everything wasn't fair, that maybe, just maybe, I deserved recognition for everything I'd done. I didn't want to get my hopes up, but it was the first time in years I felt seen. And then it happened. A month later, I got a call from their lawyer. "The will has been updated," he said. I didn't ask for details. I didn't want to know what I was getting. It wasn't about that anymore. What mattered was that my parents finally realized I wasn't invisible. Now, as I'm writing this, I don't know what the future holds. Maybe David will hate me forever. Maybe my parents will regret their choices. But I know one thing. I'm done letting other people decide my worth. If I get something in the end, fine. If not, I'll still be okay. Because everything I have now is mine, and no one can take that away.